and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who's going to predict the MLS Eastern Conference top to bottom, who's in and who's out of the playoffs. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. We did not rehearse that, but I'm all over it.
That's actually not what we're doing, right? This
Montreal
is
Impact number 1.
This is our MLS Eastern Conference preview show, and what we will not be doing, as far as I'm aware, is saying who's in and out of the playoffs, who's going to win, all that kind of stuff, because MLS is famously unpredictable.
Correct.
Maybe more than any league on earth.
Yes. I think there's always, I forget who it was who was tweeting today that, like, we retweeted it, so maybe you'll remember, but it was like, basically there's always one.
That's the only way I remember things.
There's always
it's
one
my external
team,
hard drive.
There's always one team that's really bad, and then one team that's really good, and
Zach
everybody
Goldman.
thinks it's going to be the opposite.
I tweeted it because, as I was researching, I thought that is Major League Soccer wisdom. 100%. I think Zach said there's some really well-researched previews out there, and I appreciate them. But you just know there's one team that's going to massively underperform and one team that's going to surprise people.
Correct.
Good example is last season, everybody thought FC Dallas would be sort of the team to beat.
And
they were not.
And we can stay in Texas and say, and everybody thought Houston was going to be terrible.
Yes.
And that is not the way that season went for either team.
Absolutely. So today, the way we're going to do our MLS preview is the now traditional Total Soccer Show way, which is very specific predictions. We're going to zero in on a few things and predict something very specific to happen with each team. In the Eastern Conference. Western is tomorrow.
We did the same thing last seseason.
Oh, I forgot this part of the show.
Yeah, we can go over them very quickly because we did not get that many. There were a lot that we were close. You won. I think I genuinely think for like the first time ever, you won the season predictions. So well done, my friend. You predicted. See, and what always happens with our predictions for some reason is that we slowly misremember them over the course of time. So what do you remember being your Atlanta United prediction?
Atlanta United, I predicted that they would have the highest percentage of Spanish-speaking goal scorers in the league because they got like a heavily Spanish-speaking forward line.
And I think you did that prediction for another team in another
league.
I
thought Houston beat me.
Because your prediction was they will lead the league in Spanish-language goals, which just means that they will have the most goals scored by Spanish speakers.
You mean goals?
Which they did. Yes, exactly that. They did. They had 70 goals total for Atlanta, 51 goals coming from native Spanish speakers, 72.8%. Houston had 80.7%, but again, you didn't say Spanish percentage. You just said the most goals.
So again, I'm assuming Atlanta scored more goals than Houston total.
They did.
Yeah,
70 to 57.
There we go.
And then 51-46 in terms of native speakers. So there you go. Well done, Daryl.
As we'll find out later on today's show, DC United got a piece of those goals.
They did.
Right?
They did. Yes. And then you also you said Ola Kamara would outscore Kai Kamara. I immediately mocked that prediction as saying, yes, that's going to happen. That did indeed happen.
Yes.
18 goals for Ola Kamara, 12 for Kai Kamara. I think the only...
And they've both moved on since, right?
They both have.
Yeah.
I think the only one that I got... I said Nemanja Nikolic will not be the new Hamdi Salih. He will score more than 10 goals.
Whoa.
He did that slightly.
24
goals.
24.
He sure did.
Put 24 in the back of the net.
And then I'm just bitter because I had a bunch that were like sort of close. Like I said, one of Kai Kamara, Lee Win, or Juan Agadela would move in the season. Kai Kamara was traded to Vancouver on December 10th. MLS Cup was on December 9th. So it doesn't really count.
And Lee Win tried real hard early this year.
Yeah, but I don't think that one counts for me. So yeah, overall, we were all very, very close. The other one that I think you deserve... So
you're building up that people should be listening to our very specific predictions. So. Yeah. Go to Vegas, put some money on. Catch a Vegas Lights game, see a Freddie Adu assist, and then put some money on our predictions.
I just went back and checked. The only one that was terrible was that I said Patrick Mullins would make the January camp for the U.S. national team. Instead, he scored 5 goals last season. Was injured.
More on him later.
The final thing I have to say, I didn't give you a full point. I gave you a half point for you said for Toronto FC that Matt Doyle will write an article expressing his disappointment regarding Jay Chapman's lack of minutes because Victor Vasquez would get all his minutes.
Did you search MLSsoccer.com for Jay Chapman, Matt Doyle?
I did, and there were a lot.
Did you also try Matthew Doyle?
I did that too. There were a couple different articles that were all sort of like when he did do something well, Matt Doyle being like, see, he's good, he's good. And I felt like that was enough to kind of reinforce your idea that Matt Doyle very much liked him and would promote him as much as possible.
So I got the half point.
And I think he appeared in one of those, like, here are some trade pieces that could be moved around.
All right, so I should say, MLSsoccer.com, they've got a lot of good preview information, a couple of good podcasts. Their Eastern Conference one published, their Western one will be in the future. Our vibe is a little different, right? We're not going to be predicting who's in and out of the playoffs, but I would recommend what they're putting out over at MLSsoccer.com.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they are the experts, I would say. They're the ones who do this day in, day out, week in, week out.
We do it Tuesday and Wednesday.
We sure do.
So shall we get on with our Eastern Conference preview?
Sure. We're going to go alphabetical order.
Yes.
Starting with Atlanta United. And that's who I have
this
season. Should we go like kind of quick summary of what's been happening?
Yeah, like overview, then very specific.
Sure. I mean, the biggest...
Imagine like zoomed out all the way, and then you zoom in, and then we get to a very specific player and what he's going to do.
I'm trying to avoid the scenario where I talk for 5 minutes, and then you interrupt to say,
so what's your
are we
prediction?
Going to do a prediction at any point? Yeah. I think the biggest news, obviously, was the signing of Ezequiel Barco, the best player in the Copa Sudamerica, and now playing for Atlanta United. That's not so bad. The other one that I feel like people maybe... not necessarily forget about, but because Barco was such a long, drawn-out, exciting process, is that Darlington Nagbe is also playing for Atlanta United, which is not a thing that people forget necessarily, but it's easy to overlook in terms of how they've built this roster.
So Yamil Assad to DC, so they lose Assad,
Yep.
But they gain Nagbe and Barco.
Yes.
Are they better off? They also lost Carmona.
That's the key departure. And I think that is where part of my prediction comes from. Okay. Is that Carlos Carmona was, by all accounts, from everything I've read, from the stuff I've seen from Atlanta fans, and from the few games that I saw myself, was the kind of defensive midfielder that allowed Atlanta to do a lot of the Atlanta United things they did last season. So that's winning the ball back high up the pitch so that they don't have to start deep.
The unsung ball-winning hero.
And like doing as much as he could.
And chipping in the occasional Spanish language goal. So I gave him a thumbs up for that.
He did indeed. He did indeed. So that helps you as well. And so it seems like with his departure, he's gone back to Colo Colo. Then you're basically going to have Jeff Larentowicz and Darlington Nagbe as your two sort of defense-minded midfielders. I think Matt Doyle, watching...
We should say deep lying. I'm not going to call Darlington Nagbe a defense-minded midfielder.
I think he's going to be the number 8 with Jeff Larentowicz being the number 6. Outside of that, there's not a lot of depth there. You have young players like Chris Goslin who could get some minutes, but you don't have
That's maybe the upside.
Depth.
I mean, Chris Goslin genuinely is a defensive midfielder. He's a knock-you-over defensive midfielder. He could step up and be the Carmona, right?
He's also 17, though. And there is that element.
So Atlanta United 2 for a little bit, but then maybe Larentowicz, his mid-30s legs start to give out, or he gets a little knock. Maybe Goslin's in there.
Yeah, it's possible, but I think it's gonna be difficult for them to deal with that departure, and that's why you're probably going to see some more rumors as the season goes about them bringing in another number 6 to get a little bit more depth.
So, to my question, have we got a specific prediction?
We do. It's that Atlanta will concede the most goals of any playoff team, but I think they also might score the most goals of any playoff team. So I'm going to say they're going to concede the most of any team that makes it to the playoffs, but my bonus prediction is that Joseph Martinez is going to win the Golden Boot.
Interesting.
The MLS Golden Boot.
That feels right to me. So that'll be a team to watch this year.
Because I think they're going to be incredibly exciting. I think teams are going to know what they're about. They're going to sit deep. They're going to bunker other teams, the opposition, and it's going to be Atlanta with a lot of attacking options. Because if you don't have Barco gel right away, you've got Andrew Carlton who can come in, and many other young players who are very exciting.
Can we talk Carlton? So
Sure.
I've started to have like an optimistic, realistic scenario, right? Didn't we talk the other day when we did the scouting roundup about what he'd done in pre-season with those nice couple of balls, and Tata Martino had said with his performances he's he's in consideration for the first team. I still don't expect a lot of minutes or starts from him. I expect a lot of time in Atlanta United 2, and then just an occasional sort of cameo with a flash of genius. I'm thinking I would take that this year. If there's like a nice bed of Atlanta United 2 minutes and experience. He didn't even play that much for Charleston Battery last year because there was so much U17 duty that he was off to. That's valuable. And then, look, 200 minutes in MLS. If we just get to see him now and again, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, maybe the occasional start, I think I'm okay with it. I don't want to expect him to be a starter and then be disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's the safer option to take. I think that's probably the safer option to take with Chris Goslin. I mentioned him earlier because he's very exciting, but it's probably Chris McCann who will be the one who, if Jeff Larentowicz can't go, that's your other backup defensive midfielder. There are other options in there, but I think the bigger story with them is going to be getting those youngsters a few minutes and then getting that high-powered offense into gear as fast as they can. Because I didn't even mention players like Hector Villalba, who's still very much there, likely to start on the right wing, likely to score many goals himself.
So you said Martinez for the Golden Boot. All right.
And maybe Miguel Almiron for also the Golden Boot, because who knows how many goals they're going to score this season.
Is there a golden assist? There's not, is there? There's like assist leader, but there's never sort of an actual trophy.
I think that's correct. And I will say, I'm not going to add this as a third prediction, but I will say I wouldn't be surprised if Miguel Almiron is up there for that award as well, that theoretical award.
I wouldn't be surprised if Miguel Almiron moves on.
There's that point. Oh, I think that was my caveat with Joseph Martinez winning the Golden Boot was parentheses, provided that they keep him.
Okay, so alphabetically, up next, it's me with the Chicago Fire. I've got a very disappointing specific prediction to start.
Oh boy.
So even though Bastian Schweinsteiger is going to be there for a full season and was so impressive last year, my very specific prediction is that, I'm sorry to say, Chicago Fire will not win
I knew you were going to do this.
The 2018 World Cup.
You really set it up well. You set it up so well. But I know you, Daryl Grove, and I knew it was coming. So well done.
Was it telegraphed a little bit?
Not really. It was just that, like, you don't tend to go negative. So you would announce if you were having to begin at negative, but then you wouldn't go that negative. I like it. Well done.
So obviously Schweinsteiger's still there. That's going to be great. The big news is that they traded...
By the way, I'm not giving you that prediction.
I mean, it's coming true, barring some miracle or some big reorganization at FIFA. So Chicago traded David Accam to Philadelphia Union for $1.2 million of allocation money. He will be a big miss, right? 14 goals, 8 assists? I didn't write that down. I remembered that.
I like that you looked at me with, right? I was like, sure, that sounds good.
They have kind of replaced him with a Serbian, Coach Paunovic. You know, he loves some Serbians. Alexander Kataj. He's a Serbian winger who's on loan from Alaves, Spanish team. He lit it up, not for Alaves. He didn't do so well there. He lit it up for Red Star Belgrade a couple of years ago. I watched some highlights. Very similar to David Accam.
Okay.
So he's going to be a winger, but he's going to be cutting inside at pace. Right? He really has that, like, you think he's at top speed, and then he finds like 6th or 7th gear suddenly, and there's that little burst of acceleration. And then all the goals I saw, he kind of shoots low, near post or far post. So he's very good at cutting inside and shooting. Okay. So my very specific prediction for 2018 is that, in terms of goals and assists, Alexander Kataj will outperform David Accam in 2018.
Okay.
So not just because it's not necessarily that I think he's a better player, because I haven't seen enough of either of those guys to form a definite judgment, but I think Chicago's still going to be a better team than Philadelphia Union, right? And you've got Nikolic to feed for the assists. So that's why I think Kataj will get himself more goals and assists than David Accam does this season.
All right. I think I've got a few similar predictions for other players out there. I did want to ask you one thing. You mentioned Bastian Schweinsteiger in the very beginning. From what you've read, what is the expectation for him this season?
Well, it's hard to put numbers on it, right? It's more that just like he's going to continue to look like a Rolls Royce in centre midfield.
Okay.
Did you hear my interview with Bobby Warshaw?
Yes.
So he talked a lot about how Chicago Fire have this very possession-based game, and they will kind of have the ball at the top of your box and move it around and try and work an opening. I mean, Schweini is at the very centre of that, right? He's the guy that you would bet money, you would bet your life on him completing a pass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he's like the heartbeat of the team in that way. I'm going to stick with Rolls Royce.
That works.
I've got some other stuff for you.
Sure.
I've got a bonus, very specific prediction. Chicago Fire will be the first team in 2018. I'll have to check some lineups to get this right. The first team in 2018 to field a back line of all-American, all under 25 defenders.
Okay. Running through it. Okay. Yeah. I can see how that works. Yeah.
So they've got Brandon Vincent and Matt Polster are kind of established now as the left back and right back, respectively, right? Both under 25. They've also got Christian Dean, Grant Lillard, and Jonathan Campbell are all American centre-backs under 25. The one I would say to keep an eye on is Grant Lillard. He went and played college at Indiana. So you would think of him as like a draft player, right? Like I think he's 22, but he's actually a homegrown player, so they were able to just claim him. So it's like getting a sneaky draft pick is what Chicago did. The only guy who can ruin this is their sort of first-choice central defender, Johan Kappelhoff, because he's Dutch and 27, right? So I think he was an all-star, so I think he's like their high-profile defender.
But is he capped yet?
But he's not, but I don't think he'll be switching. But the first time he's injured, suspended, or whatever, you'll get an all-American back four, all under 25. That's why Chicago might be worth watching this year.
Okay. I like that. That's a good reason. Can I say one thing that I meant to mention earlier? Speaking of all-American, I will say this, Atlanta fans. The other downside to this season could be if you start too well and maybe you're making it look too easy. Maybe people start to wonder if that's because your manager is doing such a good job, and maybe specifically people at the U.S. Soccer Federation start to wonder that. So that is my other wrinkle to this season, could be that if Atlanta are doing very, very well, inquiring minds might want to have a word.
Maybe like July, August, Martino might be leaving mid-season.
Or it could just be like, all right, we're going to keep it vacant. We're going to have it as an interim position. We think it's still an interim position until MLS Cup is done, potentially. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be over a year of no U.S. men's national team coach.
I don't know if you saw the email we got today. Thank you to whoever sent it to us. But the U.S. Soccer press release for the upcoming friendly lists Dave Sarachan as the head coach. Not
acting head coach is
what
I've seen.
Have a Q&A with U.S. men's national team head coach Dave Sarakin.
But if you were promoting a Q&A, which phrase would you go with?
I would just say I would not promote that Q&A is my answer. Is my genuine answer to that.
Final thing on Chicago, kind of a little prediction. Obviously, Nikolic will score a bunch of goals. I also think John Becerra, who was drafted, I think he'll score early in the season. I'm going to say Becerra will score in March within the first month.
Why is that?
Just because everything I've seen of him, I watched him a bit for Top Draw Soccer research, so composed. I don't think he'll be fazed by Major League Soccer. He scored all through his college career, scored in the PDL. He'll score in MLS. He'll be thinking, if my dad can score for Barcelona, pretty sure I can score in Major League Soccer.
But if he's just coming in, is he going to get minutes right away?
I think so. Delu is injured, so I think there'll be a spot for him, maybe as like a second striker, number 10 type guy. So yeah, he'll see minutes and I think he'll get on the score sheet.
Alrighty. Yeah. Well, there we go. So a couple predictions there for Chicago. Up next.
3 altogether.
We move to Columbus.
All right.
Still in Columbus, the Columbus Crew. I'm going to say
forever. Columbus Crew in Columbus forever.
Yes, sir. But that was not something that we maybe were certain was going to be the case at the end of the regular season last year.
I mean, we're not certain now, but I'm optimistic.
But I would say definitely not as optimistic when they lost Ola Kamara, their top scorer, the aforementioned, and Justin Miram. They lost both of them this season.
To LA Galaxy and Orlando, respectively.
You are correct.
I'm kind of quizzing myself on MLS knowledge.
You have Christian Martinez and Giassi Zardes coming in as kind of the theoretical like-for-like replacements for those two players.
Oh,
now,
no.
I have Extra Time Radio. They talked a lot about Giassi Zardes. I have more or less avoided talking about him because, number one, I don't think I have watched enough of him as a striker consistently at club level, that is, to feel confident in talking about it. And I also think that I'm a little bit biased when it comes to Giassi Zardes. So I don't want to make any predictions, but I think there's a chance that he does well with Columbus.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a thing with Zardes, in my opinion, of he's sort of been too willing to just happily play out on the wing, even though he, not so secretly, wants to play centre forward. And then we and other US men's national team fans judge him on his performances out of position.
Yep.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. But I think the thing that I have been reading from a couple different preseason previews was basically that Greg Berhalter, when it comes down to it, he has a system that he wants to play and he expects people to fit into that system. If they don't, he gets rid of them. But he has, I think, a belief that he can sort of plug and play. And you want to move? Fine, you can move on. We'll get some money for you. We'll bring in a player, and I think you'll do just fine. I think that's Greg Berhalter's approach, and I think that's what he expects out of Giassi Zardes. And I think he's done that elsewhere, which leads to my prediction, which is that Daryl will either Google or...
Is Daryl? Me?
Yep. Will either Google or ponder out loud if Milton Valenzuela is USMNT eligible.
I mean, if I want to win the prediction game, I'll just make a mental note to myself to never Google that.
You say that.
You can search my history. I'll leave my history open.
You say that, except for the fact that every time we do scouting, you forget something or fail to read ahead. So I feel like there's a decent chance you'll forget this.
So... Sorry, please repeat the player's name and tell me why will I be Googling this gentleman's nationality?
Milton Valenzuela, he is a 19-year-old from Newell's Old Boys. He signed for a young DP contract.
So he's Argentinian?
Yes, but basically
it's quite rare to get a young Argentinian in the
You never get that, right? I know, it's such a rarity. But essentially, he, as I said, they got rid of their two left-backs from last season, so he is probably going to start as a 19-year-old, and I think that right there might be enough for Daryl to be like, ooh, young left-back starting Major League Soccer. Let's get him on board. Okay. But just from what I've seen, he's exciting going forward. He's maybe a little bit suspect at times in 1v1 defending, but I think that's something that, again, the system...
Because he's 19.
The system, yeah, exactly, and also the system provides for. So Greg Berhalter can kind of drill that into him, figure some stuff out, and I think Columbus maybe won't be as exciting as they were last season. They are less likely to make the conference finals, I believe, is where they were knocked out by Toronto, but... Overall, I think it will be another strong season from Columbus, much stronger than maybe I would have thought before I started researching them.
Here's my bonus prediction for Columbus Crew, unless you were also going to make it. I predict they will get saved.
You think so?
I think that by sometime in the 2018 season, we will find out that Columbus Crew will be playing in Major League Soccer in 2019 and beyond.
All right. Yeah. I think that's a safe bet, either through sale or because Anthony Precourt tries to save face and ends up keeping the team there. Either way, I think you're correct.
Wouldn't it be a wonderful story if the Columbus staying is powered by Giassi Zardes on a goal-scoring tear? It would be like a great comeback story for American soccer.
That would be an unlikely scenario, or at least it would have been unlikely, especially a year ago. Yeah. But now...
Fueled by crosses from my new favourite left-back.
Sure. One other little thing... Stronger in defense, it seems like it's going to be Josh Williams starting at center back. But the one that I think could be the only wrinkle is that I mentioned Christian Martinez and Pedro Santos. Those are going to be the two that maybe play wide and provide the assists, maybe provide some
goals.
I
remember Pedro Santos, nice and lively. Yeah,
he is. I think he only scored 2 goals last season, and so if you're looking for him as this like, oh, he'll just replace Justin Merrim and he'll be just as fine, maybe there could be some issues there.
Gotcha.
But you've still got Higuain, in the middle.
And how will my Will Trapp bandwagon be doing in 2018?
I mean,
will it be gathering more followers, or will people be falling off?
I don't even know where you are in the Will Trapp bandwagon. Last we spoke, I think you were sort of casually stepping off of it, but maybe still like saving your seat.
So what happened is I got on some other bandwagons, like the Tyler Adams bandwagon and the Weston McKennie bandwagon, and they kind of overtook the Will Trapp bandwagon, which is like not starting to show its age, but is definitely older than the other bandwagons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think he'll be spraying balls around midfield this season, quite.
Yeah.
And what's the word? Quite usefully.
Yeah, and you did the predicting last year for Columbus. You just wanted to see him stay healthy for an entire season.
No concussions.
Yes. And I believe he played every single game of the regular season, so there you go.
There we go. We heard the bandwagon go past the studio. Right, just there. It's got a big engine.
Bandwagon motorcycle.
Are you good with Columbus?
Yep.
Okay, let's go close to home, just up 95 North here. DC United. Big year for DC United. A lot of what you're going to hear about DC United is that they're going to move into the new field at Buzzard Point, Audi Field. This summer they've moved on from Volkswagen, which is kind of interesting. They used to be very VW affiliated, right?
That's odd.
It's a whole new future for DC United with a new car.
About this.
Whole new car.
Yep.
So that is scheduled to open July 14th. I was about to come in here and say my specific prediction.
I believe that's also when Cameron Poe gets paroled from prison in Con Air, and I don't know why I know that.
2018?
No, he was paroled a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Demolition Man gets... Anyway, so my prediction was going to be that maybe that's delayed because stadium openings are always delayed. But I went and looked at the live cam, and this thing it's getting there. Like most of the stands are built. There's still concrete in the middle.
I hope that's the official policy of DC United. It's getting there. It's getting there.
Yeah, since 2010.
Yeah, don't worry.
Since 2010. So first mini prediction is that Audi Field will open on time and they will play against the Vancouver Whitecaps July 14th at Buzzard Point. Right. How about that specific prediction?
Okay.
A lot of people talked about how there's going to be a road trip to start the season. They've got a couple home games that they'll be playing at various places like the Maryland Soccerplex. I think they'll do okay on the road, mostly because they've got rid of a lot of the old guys and kind of refreshed with some younger players and some foreigners who are newcomers to the league.
Okay.
So rather than having, say, Marcelo Sarvas, Lloyd Sam, Patrick Nyarko, Chris Rolfe, older guys on a road trip grumbling about the hotels, you have some young guys who will be like, yeah, road trip. And guys like Ulysses Segura and Junior Moreno, they're guys in their 20s, new to the United States. They'll be like, yeah, let's see this country. Let's go see the Grand Canyon. So the road trips will go well.
Is that what you're thinking has happened here? Okay.
Possibly. But I mean, it's kind of a light-hearted way of just getting the story across that DC United have got rid of some older guys and are sort of younger, more lively, a bit more interesting, basically, because I've been thinking of them as not that interesting a team to watch in recent years.
DC?
They'll be a lot more interesting for 2018.
DC, the official team of, that 31-year-old who you don't want anymore? We'll take him.
Exactly. He's gone. He's gone. And Marcelo Sarvas was 36. So the big signing is Yamil Assad.
Yeah.
Yamil Assad they have on loan from Vélez Sarsfield, which is the same situation that Atlanta United had. Seems like a bit of a coup for DC to get him, right? I know Atlanta fans wanted to keep Yamil Assad. They're happy with their Barco, I'm sure.
I would assume they are, yeah.
So Assad will likely play on the left wing in a 4-1-4-1. And my very specific prediction is that Patrick Mullins, centre forward, will double his 2017 goal total.
So 10 goals?
He got 5 goals last year. He will get at least 10 goals in 2018. And part of the reason will be the service that is provided to him by Yamil Assad.
Okay.
Fair?
So are you expecting Patrick Mullins to start up top then?
Yes. I think he'll have Darren Mattocks will be pushing him. And maybe sometimes Mattocks will play on the wing, right? But I think Mullins will be the starting striker. He'll have a less injury-filled 2018 than he had 2017. And Yamil Assad will make Patrick Mullins Yamila happy with lots of assists for Patrick Mullins to score. Fair?
Yes. Now, this time last year, you were very excited to hear about a young man named Ian Harkes. What are you expecting from the youngsters for DC in terms of that midfield?
So I was all excited for Chris Durkin, right? It's Chris Durkin, we've talked about him before, defensive midfielder, US under-17s. We've seen him play for the Kickers. I think he's ready for Major League Soccer. The thing is, DC United, they're going to play this 4-1-4-1, right? they have a lot of central midfielders on the books. The guys I just mentioned, Segura and Moreno, they can both play midfield. You've also got Ian Harkes.
I didn't really put this together,
Russell Knaus is the sort of defensive midfielder. Luciano Acosta is going to be in there. Jared Jeffrey is still there. So here's my prediction. Chris Durkin will get minutes, but he'll get more minutes in defence than in midfield.
Oh, so you think they might put him at centre-back?
I think so. Centre-back, you've got Steve Birnbaum, who had concussions last year. We don't know if Birnbaum's going to be back to what he was. They've signed Frederick Brilliant, who I think is a solid defender. Kofi Apare is the other central defender. But it's still not massively deep, right? So I think he may end up getting a game at centre-back, which is what it ended up happening for the US at the U17 World Cup, remember, right?
Yep.
More importantly, can you name me sort of an all-star DC United fullback?
I cannot. I cannot, and I don't think I ever could.
Exactly.
Outside of Jeff Agus?
So, yeah, he's not currently on the roster.
No.
So Taylor Kemp is there. Nick DeLeon is like a converted fullback. Sean Franklin's gone. And then Jalen Robinson, Chris Odoi-Atsum, who are guys we've seen come down and play for the Richmond Kickers,
or
currently
warm
on
up
the roster.
For the Kickers,
or warm up for the Kickers. Or just drive down and watch the Kickers.
A little bit.
More often than
Sometimes.
not. Basically, there's no like big name fullback. I think Chris Durkin might end up getting some minutes at right back. Just because it's an easy place to sort of, this isn't working, we want to get this kid some minutes. He's got the skill set. He's long-term too good to play fullback, but he's got the skill set to sort of basically do a Tyler Adams and play right back for DC United.
That feels like a June move right there. Like, just put him at right back.
Yeah.
We'll just play this one game.
Right?
We'll wait till somebody gets healthy. I think that's a solid shot.
It's a good prediction, right?
Yeah.
So Chris Durkin to get more minutes in defence, centre-back or fullback, than he does in midfield, and to be quietly pretty good, impressive.
And we have our annual, Daryl, I look forward to you tracking that for next year's prediction review.
We'll just do sort of an eye test kind of feel to it.
Sure.
If Durkin ever plays right back, you'll be hearing about it from me.
All right. Well, you mentioned that DC United were not massively deep in defense. Let's talk about teams that aren't massively deep anywhere. Let's move to Montreal, shall we?
Okay.
The Montreal Impact. So they are one of the teams, I think, I'd say Montreal and Orlando, who are very unknown, even if they are a known entity. Like, it's not an expansion team like LAFC.
I think you meant unknown, like no one's heard of them.
No, it's mostly that a lot of the people that you probably remember from those Montreal Impact teams are gone or retired. The one who remains is Ignacio Piatti.
I was about to ask.
But outside of that, you had a lot of the older players, the players who were around when Didier Drogba was doing things. They have moved on, including Mauro Biello. He is no longer the coach. Instead, we have Remy Gard coming in, formerly of Aston Villa?
Yes,
mark?
and Arsenal.
Here we go. Well, yeah.
Played for Arsenal, coached Villa.
There we go. I was like, wait a minute. What happened there? Was there a year that I missed when Wenger was out and then came back in? Yes, and so I really don't know what to make of Montreal, basically, because you have a lot of those players moved on.
The MLS thing is you don't know what to make of teams until you see them, right? Hence the very specific predictions, as opposed to Montreal will finish 5th in the East.
Yes.
Who knows?
I really don't. I think there's a chance that they might be one of those teams that everybody thinks is going to have a bad season and make the playoffs. They might also finish dead last in the East.
But please tell me Piatti will still be a joy to watch every time he gets the ball.
We'll get to him in a minute.
Okay.
Because I would say, with everything I've said, the biggest loss is Blairem Desmaili. I think that's how you pronounce that. I apologize if I butchered it. He joined the club.
You got it all wrong.
Oh, okay. You want to go for it?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I don't want to show you a...
I would bet money that you might not remember his first name. But he joined the club mid-season from Bologna, where he returned at the end of this season. But 7 goals, 10 assists in 22 matches, that will be very difficult for them to replace. He basically said, like, no, I want to go back.
I don't want to play. Piatti to do more.
You can ask his basically like-for-like replacement, Safir Taider, who's an Algerian international, came from Bologna. So he's essentially going to be the box-to-box replacement. But this is what I mean, is that they've kind of gotten rid of known entities or players they know who can do a job, and they're bringing in people who they hope can do a job. They've also lost people like Jean-Yves Tabla. He has moved on.
He's gone to Barcelona, right? I'm still waiting for some Canadian listener to Total Soccer Show to want to scout Tabla as he goes to Barcelona. That kid was talented.
Yeah. And I mean, continues to be. But in the meantime, what you're going to have, it seems like, is a 4-3-3. You're going to have Piatti inverted playing on the left, Raheem Edwards, who moved from Toronto by way of LAFC, I believe. He'll be on the right. But my prediction is going to be that Ignacio Piatti will be traded in the summer window or sometime before the deadline.
Why do you say that?
Because I'm going to err on the side of maybe Montreal are still going to have to try to figure things out. Remy Gard's first season in Major League Soccer, and that he is a huge trade piece that you can get a lot of draft picks for. You can get a lot of money or younger players.
So he's like the valuable piece that you trade to rebuild. So this season is like a rebuilding year. Halfway through, you're sort of like, all right, let's get rid of the main piece. And,
Whereas if you are the...
It's like trading your queen for 10 pawns.
Yeah. Sure.
Maybe a couple of bishops.
Hopefully something else. But yeah. But it's like...
I don't win a lot of chess matches.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. It could turn out. I mean, pawns can become queens. You never know. But I would say that you basically are going to have a situation potentially where maybe you're like the 5th or 6th seed in the East. You need to strengthen a little bit. You need just one more attacker to come in and really light things up and get you those goals.
So you trade your best player?
And I'm saying that could be Piatti for those teams. So they might maybe
for another team.
The like really trying to force through making the playoffs, might be willing to give up a lot to get that one player in the
Portland
short term.
are all in for Piatti because they realize they're missing a left-sided attacker after Nagby left for Atlanta.
I mean, and he's a proven Major League Soccer entity. I think I've said entity like 4 times in this one, but I'm cool with it. He's a proven player.
Normally it's just single entity.
That's good stuff by you. But he's a player, you know what you're getting from him, and I think that's why he's very important to Montreal to start the season. But it's just one thing I wouldn't be surprised by if they let him go later on.
Okay, fair enough. So your specific prediction is that Piatti gets traded.
And a big part of that, to bring it all full circle, was just because you have Jason Vargas, who they brought in. He's going to be your one attacking midfielder. They've got some center backs, but if you look at their depth chart, it's one of those things where it's like, they've got plenty, and then you look and like these starting left center back is the backup right center back, and same thing for the left center back, and then the back, like the full back is the backup center back, and suddenly it's like, so you have 3 center backs. Got it.
Does this mean you've been looking at the MLSsoccer.com depth charts? Yep. They are very useful. I'd recommend those to people. If you want to see the depth charts of here's all your left backs, here's who can play there, here's who's likely to start, MLSsoccer.com has you covered with all that stuff.
There we are.
Today's show not sponsored by MLSsoccer.com.
It is not.
But it is sponsored by Health IQ.
Oh boy.
Health IQ is an insurance company that helps health-conscious people, like me and Taylor, get lower rates on your life insurance. If you are a runner, especially a runner, because most soccer players are also runners, even if you don't know it, because you're playing soccer wrong if you don't run, and you can prove it with like your Fitbit or any sort of event data, you can send it to Health IQ. You can get lower rates on your life insurance if you can prove that you are healthy.
I would say most of the people we've talked about so far would do well with Health IQ quizzes.
I think they would. Yeah. It's your turn today, Taylor.
Okay.
So on healthiq.com/TSS, if you go there, you can take those quizzes to prove that you know about health. Today's quiz of the day, Taylor, unfortunately, is not soccer related.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you 3 questions from a winter sports quiz.
Oh, perfect.
It's titled, get ready for this. Are you feeling lively?
I'm not feeling confident since I watched very, very little of the Winter Olympics.
It's called Time to Try a Winter Triathlon.
I don't even know what that is. Okay, I'm hoping that's like...
I think it's you play in New England, Colorado, and Toronto in March.
Okay. In that case, no, I'm not ready.
I have hit start quiz. Normally you can see the screen. You can't see it today.
I cannot.
Here's the first question. Winter triathlon combines 3 sports in the snow. What are the main 2 training variables that will predict success? We don't actually know what the 3 sports are, do we?
Oh, boy.
What are the main 2 training variables that will predict success? Is it vertical jump height, sprint ability and max power, technique and endurance, leg strength and navigation? The first one was only one thing.
That's why I'm so baffled. Can you go through them one more time? Because we had one.
I'll show you my screen just so it makes it easier.
Well, it's not going to be vertical jump height because that doesn't make any sense. Sprint ability and max power, technique and endurance. I'm going to say technique and endurance.
Technique and endurance.
Yes.
That seems obvious for triathlon.
It does.
And it's correct.
All right.
You've used your fitness common sense to get this one, right?
That's what I go with most of the time. What
are the most important muscle groups used in cross-country skiing? So we now know that skiing is one of the 3 winter triathlon sports. And there's a picture of a man on a bicycle in the snow, so if that's helpful. Swimming is not part of it because you would freeze. There it goes. Running, skiing, and cycling.
Only if you're not tough enough.
Okay, what are the most important muscle groups in cross-country skiing? Latissimus dorsi.
Nice try, fancy word.
Core and back. Calves. The muscles, not the small calves. Or biceps.
I'm going to say core and whatever.
Core and back.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm onto your tricks, Health IQ, with your fancy word that makes me think maybe it's that.
I think latissimus dorsi is like across your shoulder. I remember from my
It's a dolphin's
GCSE
dorsal fin, Daryl. Get it together.
Winter triathlon has unique challenges, such as possible hypothermia and frostbite.
Okay, so maybe it is swimming.
What is a symptom of frostbite? Is it sleepiness? Is it muscle fatigue? Is it internal bleeding?
Yeah.
That's harsh. Or is it numbness?
I'm going to say numbness.
It's the obvious one.
I think the most obvious one that I've always heard is that you get warmer, or you feel like you're getting warmer. And maybe a sense of elation as well, but I'm going to say numbness for the purposes of this quiz.
It is numbness.
There we go.
You answered 3 out of 3 on the Winter Triathlon, an event I believe you have never competed in or even practiced at.
Or know that exists. Yes, that's correct.
So, well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. But it shows that you can take these quizzes and help reduce your rate.
You certainly can. So, if you go to healthiq.com/TSS, or if you mention the promo code TSS to a Health IQ agent on the phone, then you may be able to get lower rates on your life insurance. So go to healthiq.com/TSS to see if you qualify.
And thank you to Health IQ for sponsoring today's program. When we left off, was doing Montreal Impact, which I believe leaves you with the New England Revolution.
All right, keeping it cold. Okay, New England Revolution. The big story at New England is Brad Friedel is now the coach.
Yep.
Jay Heaps is out. Brad Friedel is now the head coach. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what style of soccer Brad Friedel likes to play. I know from the lineups I've seen that it's roughly a 4-3-3 or maybe a 4-1-4-1.
Okay.
Like he's got one striker. I don't know what else is going on with Brad Friedel. So this is going to be quite hard to predict. I do know that I don't know if it's Brad Friedel's decision. They traded Kai Kamara to Vancouver Whitecaps. So the great Kai Kamara tour of North America continues.
Do you know when Brad Friedel took over?
I do not. I know he was traded in December, right?
Yes.
I should have researched this and figured it out.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But my guess is going to be that they made that decision before he took over.
That makes sense. Yeah, so like an organization decision as opposed to a Brad Friedel decision.
Or independent of whether or not he was going to take over. Yeah.
All right. So this isn't my prediction, but I think Juan Agudelo, in the absence of Kai Kamara, will get to play centre forward a lot more and will be a lot happier. I've already done a sort of a player will score more goals than previously prediction, so I'm not going to do that with Agudelo. But I am going to say my very specific prediction is Kellen Rowe will make the MLS All-Star roster.
Okay.
Kellen Rowe will make the MLS All-Star roster.
Okay, now you do have priors with this one. You predicted that Ambrose Sayongo would make the MLS roster as a left back, I think it was. He did not, unfortunately for you, and is no longer in Major League Soccer either.
I mean, they can't all be winners. They can't all be winners. But here's the thing with Kellen Rowe. We've seen him for the US national team. We've been impressed every single time.
That's true.
He is the man when it comes to the first-time pass to set someone free, right? So what I've seen in preseason is Kellen Rowe, instead of being moved around the field all over the place like he has been in the past, right? He's been right wing, left wing. He's played left back, right back. They've even finally signed a left back, Gabriel Somi. So that covers that spot. Kellen Rowe will not be asked to play there. He will be central midfield. I believe right now he's going to be sort of the number 8. But in the absence of Lee Wynn, because Lee Wynn famously didn't report for training at the start of the season. He is, according to Brad Friedel, a month behind everyone else on fitness. So he is not going to be starting the season this weekend. Kellen Rowe will be the main man in central midfield. And I think it's going to be Kellen Rowe. He's also at that age, right? 26, where you start to become sort of a senior, more important player. So Kellen Rowe will make the MLS All-Star roster based on him feeding loads of first-time through balls for Juan Agudelo to run on and score.
All right. For those who maybe haven't been as up to date on the Revolution, cough, cough me, what is the status of Lee Wynn? So has he just decided, like, okay, fine, I'll stay with the Revolution?
So I don't know the date, but I want to say a couple of weeks ago, he at least relented and reported to training because he was basically on strike. He was holding out for a move. A move was not forthcoming. So he didn't make any announcements, but the Revolution announced he's back. He's back in training.
So it's basically he's back, but maybe isn't thrilled to be back. It's not like everything's been resolved. He's really happy.
He's begrudgingly back. And it's still like they haven't made a definite statement on we're happy with him now. Like we hugged it out, like Ari Gold tells you to do, and now Lee Wynn is going to play. There's only that slightly terse statement from Brad Friedel that he is 3.5 to 4 weeks behind everybody else on fitness. And we're taking fitness very seriously. Brad Friedel has brought in, I can't remember the guy's name, he's brought in a former Spurs sort of fitness coach to get them super fit in pre-season. So basically you can't expect to see much of Lee Wynn at the start of the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But Kellen Rowe, we're going to see lots of.
Kellen Rowe. And eventually you might see Wynn sort of be sort of happier, suddenly think, okay, I can hack it here for a bit longer, come in and do something, but it'll be Kellen Rowe's team already by the time he does.
That works for me. And maybe Juan Agudelo putting in some goals. I also like that idea too.
Yep.
Anything else on New England?
No, except that Wilfried Zahibo is going to be the sort of defensive midfielder that presumably will be important because he's been brought in to start in that role. All I know is he's a French midfielder who's played in the La Liga Segunda División. And to me, that's the the perfect MLS signing that I don't know anything about, right? He could be one of the stars of the show, or he could be some guy who's like, oh, remember Zahibo? And everyone says no. So we'll find out in 2018.
But it's safe to say that he is the second most prominent Wilfred Z that we know.
There we go.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right.
Less dribbly, though, I assume, as a defensive midfielder.
Yeah. All right. Well, that takes us to NYC FC, New York City FC.
All right.
Yes, and I would say the story there is depth.
Is that right,
but in
Hapley?
a better way than the depth of story when it comes to NYC FC is depth, says this reporter. But yeah, it is. And the opposite of the Montreal Impact, essentially that they are, I would say, overall stronger at every single position, New York.
Even sans Jack Harrison.
And that we'll get to that in a moment when we get to some predictions. But, for example, last season they had the prolonged injury to Matarrita, so they had Ben Sweat starting in his place. Both of them are still there.
Which is left back or right back?
Left back. You got it. Tinnerholm will start at right back, but they brought in Abdul Salam. That was when they did the trade for Kyrie Shelton when Kyrie Shelton went to Sporting KC. So they've just kind of they've brought in players to fill out that roster. And it reminds me a little bit of what we saw from Toronto FC last season, where they brought in some very exciting players. That's when Victor Vasquez came in, but you had other kind of role players coming in, filling out space, and just overall solidifying the team.
So you never sort of caught short of we don't have a fullback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, they still have the best, I would say, two of the best midfield pivot players you've got in Ring and Yangel Herrera.
I still remember him from the U20 World Cup. He was the real deal.
They have Maxi Morales, who I know let you down a little bit with your predictions last season.
So my prediction was he would do the double-double, right? 10 goals, 10 assists. I think I heard on, it might have been Extra Time Radio.
I wrote it down.
It was 5 goals, 9 assists. He was almost there in some categories. He wasn't horrible last year, but he wasn't specific prediction good.
He was not. But you're forgiven. So yes, to get to your points.
But he's not.
No. But to get to your points, the departures, Andrea Pirlo retires, which I think maybe works out.
That happened in 2017 as well.
Yeah, a little bit. It might have happened before then. And then the other big departure that you mentioned is Jack Harrison, who you would think they're going to miss. I'm not sure they will, because it's the man that everyone is excited about. And so I'm going to go with the like-for-like prediction. I'm going to say Jesus Medina will get at least 6 assists and maybe 10 goals, which is what Jack Harrison did last season for NYCFC. So if you don't know Jesus Medina, 20-year-old, signed from Club Libertad in Paraguay. He's a DP replacement for Andrea Pirlo. And he is real good. So him I watched
How does he look holding a wine glass, though?
Less fancy and does not have the majestic long hair. Has slightly shaggy hair, but not quite. But he does have a very good left foot. He can hit the free kicks. He can score the poacher goals. He can score from distance. He doesn't score, admittedly, that often. 17 goals in 74 appearances so far in his club career.
It's not bad for a winger.
It's not. And I feel like at NYCFC, Patrick Vieira...
That's you must be this tall to go on this ride for a winger.
Yeah, sure.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just saying to then guarantee he's going to score 10 goals, that's a big return. But I just think from everything I've seen from him and everything I've read about him, it seems like he is a player that will light the spark for NYCFC in a way that Jack Harrison did, potentially more so, I would say.
Jesus Medina.
What
about Jonathan Lewis? So Medina is going to be ahead of Jonathan Lewis.
Jonathan Lewis right now on the depth chart that I have in front of me is number 2 behind Jesus Medina, but I think that's okay because you're going to have to rest players, you're going to have injuries, you're going to have moments where Jonathan Lewis will be able to step in and get some minutes this season.
So this is an interesting side topic. Do you remember I've got my whole thing about the reason I'm watching MLS this year? I don't have a team to support. I'm not going to necessarily be watching this team's good versus this team's good. I'm going to be watching for American youngsters. I want to see them get minutes. I've been doing the research for this. I've found that, in some cases, I've been disappointed when I found out that Medina would be ahead of Lewis, who I assumed would just be straight in for Jack Harrison. But then in other cases, like another team we'll talk about later, there are guys that I didn't think would be getting minutes who suddenly are in the first team. So it's weirdly balanced out. The things where I was disappointed, there's something to balance it out where some youngsters are going to get a chance.
Yeah, and I think I appreciate all
I'm
that.
not as frustrated as I thought I would.
That's good. That's good. I mean, and I think for me, I'm excited to see more of the young players from South America as well, specifically because
you're in the right league.
That's
you're in the
true.
right non-South American league for that.
But with Medina, for example, first of all, we may well see him play for Paraguay this coming March when the United States plays them. But that's another player and country who we might see if there is a 2020 Copa America. I would like to have a bit more familiarity with some of those teams than I did in the 2016 iteration, where I was I don't know any Venezuelan players except for maybe that one guy. So I think just to have a little bit...
Is it Joseph Martinez?
No, actually, I think I'm not even sure I knew him that well. I think it was Thomas Rincon was the one that I knew, and that might have been it. So just to have a little bit more knowledge about those teams would be nice.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then Rodney Wallace is also playing.
Possibly.
As is David Villa.
David Villa. How did we get through the whole NYC FC prediction?
I think because he's just an ever-present. He's just obvious, the standard, right? Like we know.
He'll score a bunch of goals. He'll look real good.
He's very likely to start. He does have a backup. He'll play most of the minutes and score most of the goals. I think that about answers it.
So this is a question you may not know the answer to. Mm-hmm. Does he have any expectation of going to the World Cup?
I do not know the answer.
I wonder if the pressure is on. Yeah, because I do remember him being called up to the Spanish roster towards the back end of last year, and everyone was like, "Oh, see what you can do in MLS." Mm-hmm. So there may be you may see David Villa, excuse me.
You do what you got to do
early in the season, being like, "I need to fill this net with goals to try and get myself to a World Cup." That could be an interesting story.
My instant reaction is to say no, there's no chance. But it is a thing that we've seen before, where strangely enough, Spain don't always have the out-and-out goal scorer that you expect them to have, and maybe if you need an experienced veteran who can score goals and has done so in major competitions, you do look to him. It seems, I'm going to say, it's a long shot, but it is a possibility.
So he scores 100 goals in March and April.
I'll say this, he could definitely get that would do it, but he could definitely get maybe a call-up to one of the Spain camps in the lead-up to the World Cup.
So he has a shot.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're telling me there's a chance.
There's a chance.
All right, New York Red Bulls.
Slightly more of a chance than Lloyd had, but yes.
New York Red Bulls are up next. Mm-hmm. The big news, obviously, for Red Bulls fans is Sacha Kljestan traded to Orlando City. In exchange, they got Rivas and Tommy Redding, so they went younger. And I think that's the key to New York Red Bulls this season.
Can I make a prediction for next season for the Red Bulls?
Yeah.
That when we have this conversation next time, that Bradley Wright Phillips will have just been sold? Because it feels like every year we're just getting rid of one key player.
Yep, and they get younger every year. So I think the thing you'll see with New York Red Bulls this year is even more of that intense press that Jesse Marsch just doubles down on more and more each year. I think he kind of messed it up last year by going with that 4-2-2-2. Do you remember? We kept watching them and kept saying, this isn't right, this doesn't quite work. I really think they'll have it down this year.
Okay.
They've also, the big signing, that weirdly is a guy I had never heard of until MLS got excited about him, Kaku. Mm-hmm. You heard of this guy?
I have. Because I almost, to the extent...
Did you have the same reaction as me of who?
Well, yes.
Are you mispronouncing
but
Kaku?
Now I've heard about him so much that I'm about to do Orlando City here in just a second, and I almost wrote down that Kaku has left Orlando City.
So he's already replaced him in your mind. So Kaku is, I believe, 23-year-old who has joined from Huracan in Argentina. His real name is Alejandro Romero Gamara.
That's not important. It's Kaku.
It's Kaku. It will be Kaku. I'm guessing that will be on his jersey, right? So again, instead of Kljestan, he will be part of that front line. He will be doing the pressing. He will be at pace running at you, younger team. Tyler Adams in central midfield, I think, is important.
Yep.
Instead of on the wing, you see Tyler Adams in central midfield. Again, more energy, more pressing. Red Bulls are coming for you if you've got the ball. That's the scary thing for 2018.
Yep.
Here's my very specific prediction. Based on what I read about Kaku, Sam Kelly, who is, I believe, an English writer who's based down in Argentina, wrote an article basically describing the things that Kaku likes to do. The things he mentioned were nutmegs in a Dele Alli kind of way. Loves a nutmeg. Always going for a nutmeg.
Okay, looking for the cheeky nutmeg.
And long shots. Kaku loves a long shot. I went and watched some highlights. Confirmed. Loves a long shot, and they often go in. Here's my very specific prediction.
Confirmed.
There will be a Kaku goal that features both.
Okay.
He will nutmeg someone, and then he will strike a long shot, and it will go in.
That should be easier to track because that has all the makings of a goal of the week.
It, yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, it'll win goal of the week. If it doesn't, then you should watch the other one because that will be something special.
You know, the easy way to solve this is for us to just actually print these out and post them somewhere so we can just track them throughout the year.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to volunteer to do that, then I'm all in.
That seems like a whole thing.
I support your decision.
Seems like a whole thing. Seems like simple work throughout the year is less fun than frantically listening to a podcast an hour before we record.
I mean, kind of. Right?
Yeah.
So here's my other bonus prediction. Tyler Adams as a central midfielder. I wanted to find a stat that would show his improvement, right? So he got here's some stats from last year real quick because I love me some Tyler Adams. 2.8 tackles per game, 1.3 interceptions, 2 goals the whole season, 4 assists the whole season. He may improve on all of those. Maybe not the tackles because you maybe do more tackling at fullback, but you'll get more interceptions in central midfield, I think.
Also, I think also with the way he was playing, where he had the kind of free reign at times, I could see him intercepting a ball from a fullback to an outside midfielder, or making those interceptions, making a tackle on a player running down the wing. I could see him doing lots of different things.
All right.
So I think that's a decent idea, but it seems like you've rounded it out further.
Well, one thing to definitely think about is I think more assists because he'll just be intercepting or winning balls in midfield and then maybe feeding Bradley Wright Phillips, right? So he'll get more than 4 assists this season. But here's my big prediction is leadership based. As the team gets younger, Tyler Adams gets more experienced. And we've already seen him telling people what to do, right? He's explaining how soccer works to his teammates very often. I think Tyler Adams will wear the captain's armband for New York Red Bulls at some point this season.
That sounds likely,
possible. So they've announced the actual captains. Luis Robles, the goalkeeper, will wear the armband. Bradley Wright Phillips is the second captain, to give it the Irish phrase, but it's actually
vice-captain?
Assistant captain, I think, is the American phrase. Vice-captain is the English phrase, weirdly, right? Same language, 3 different words. Tyler Adams, I think, at some point will be the most experienced player on the field and will get to wear the armband.
I think Felipe might like a word with you, but yeah, outside of that.
I'd like a word with Felipe about how Tyler Adams is a better footballer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we'll see Tyler Adams explaining how soccer works to Felipe this season.
That would be interesting. To your point about Tyler Adams and his assists, though, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more like MLS assists from him. Because I could see him like working really hard to win the ball back or getting the ball in an advanced position, laying it off to somebody who plays it in for Bradley Wright Phillips, and it's a goal. So he gets that assist, but it's about like the work he does off the ball to make that happen. So
here's my I agree with you, but here's my perfect thing for 2018 then. Tyler Adams charges someone, wins the ball back.
While wearing captain's armband.
While wearing the captain's armband, thank you. He just puts it on, then he charges someone, wins the ball back. He cuts. He squares it to Kaku. Kaku dribbles in from the left, nutmegs the defender, shoots from distance, top corner. All my predictions in one goal.
And then in the crowd, this happens against Orlando City, in the crowd, Kaká just claps approvingly?
Yes.
In street clothes?
Yeah.
Okay, that works. I like it.
How about that?
All right.
A couple of bonus predictions. Ben Mines will score.
Okay.
Ben Mines in the Scout Network.
For the senior team.
17-year-old forward. He will come on and score at some point this season.
I think you're going too young. Because I think,
you do?
and I mean that only because, isn't there another young player who came out of Red Bulls Academy, Red Bulls 2, who could maybe get some minutes and score some goals this season?
Bonus prediction, somebody somewhere will suggest that Derek Etienne should get a US men's national team call-up, and it will be too late because he's already committed and played for Haiti.
But he's short, Daryl. And as we all know, that's the end-all, be-all of a soccer player. And now I hate everything.
So that was one of the reasons, right? He was overlooked by US soccer.
He was 5'7",
and kind of went to play for Haiti.
As a 19-year-old or whatever, yeah. How dare he? How dare he? Oh, frustrating things.
There's your Red Bulls prediction.
Okay.
So I think they'll be glorious to watch this year because the pressing will be honed and there'll be a lot of young Americans to watch, including Tommy Redding, Tyler Adams, all those guys. So I think, Red Bulls will be a team to watch this year.
Alrighty. Then that moves us to Orlando City. We talked about them briefly when it came to some of the moves they've made, because again, they are similar to Montreal in the sense that they have gotten rid of a lot of the players you might have been more familiar with. Kaká is gone. Servando Carrasco, who you might know as a midfielder or as Alex Morgan's husband.
He was. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Kyle Larin, Antonio Nocerino.
He was drunk at Disneyland, right?
Yes, he was. Not Kyle Larin, but Servando Carrasco. Yes. Kyle Larin is gone. Antonio Nocerino, Seb Hines, Tommy Redding, Kevin Alston, Giles Barnes, Carlos Rivas. All out the door. They have had a clear out because this is Jason Kreis's team now. So basically what he has done is tried to make this into as much of a Jason Kreis team as we would expect. Think back to that RSL team, maybe not so much the NYC team that he coached. It's a little difficult to know.
That's what he would ask you to do.
Yes. It's a little difficult to know what they're going to do because he has kind of done a preseason blackout. I think a lot of their friendlies were behind closed doors. He didn't want people seeing what he was doing.
What?
He hasn't really answered questions about what they've been doing. So there have been a few of the final preseason games there have been highlights of and video of, but he has been very tight-lipped about what he is doing.
So here's where this surprises me, is, as we kind of joked about earlier, single entity structure type thing. I would have assumed that it was like a Major League Soccer rule that you have to make the video available, you have to sort of be as open as all the other teams, that you couldn't make a decision like that. I find that really interesting that one team and one coach was given the liberty to say, I could see someone in front office, big MLS headquarters front office saying, no, we need as many viewers as we can. You've got to, hype it up. You've got to be able to let people see your team in preseason.
I mean, and that is a silly approach to take.
I would
agree.
Say. But I'm pleasantly surprised by this.
Well, I could be wrong, but there's also a possibility that the preseason games against MLS opposition, those were televised, or those you could find footage of. The ones against USL teams, NPSL teams, college teams, whomever, those might not have been.
I'm less impressed now.
Yeah, but who knows? But either way. So let's move to what they have done.
Yes, please.
They've brought in Sasha Kleshton, who will be suspended for the first 2 games of the season.
Oh, because the playoffs.
Worth noting that. And then it's a lot of players who I was like, yeah, okay. Like I skimmed their roster the first time, and then the more I read about them, the more I read about them. Josue Coleman, 19-year-old midfielder, 5-year deal. Justin Merrim, we all know.
Oh, excuse me, 19-year-old midfielder, 5-year deal?
Yes. For
Coleman?
Yeah, Josue Coleman, yes.
Josue Coleman, all right.
Yes. Then you've got Justin Merrim, who we talked about previously. Oriol Rosell, are you familiar with him? It's okay for you to say no.
I know his name, but I don't know why.
So that is exactly how I was. So he is the one that they sent all of the allocation money.
He invented the cookies.
Yes, that's him. That's it. Then we're done. He's the one that Orlando sent $400,000 in GAM or TAM. I always forget the difference. We'll talk more about that on Thursday.
MLS money.
Yeah. They sent that to FC Dallas to get the allocation spot to bring him back in.
Okay.
He was formerly with Sporting KC, went to Sporting CP, did not have much success, bounced around Portugal, but he's back. He is, I believe, going to be their number 6, their defensive midfielder that they need, that rock. So it'll be him and Yotun will be the two kind of pivot midfielders with Clushton in front of them. Justin Merrim and Coleman out wide, and then up top, Dom Dwyer. And then theoretically more solidified defense, but I really don't know much about them aside from that Jonathan Spector will be there as a center back. Aha will be partnering him. Supposedly, they're going to be much better, but again, not much footage.
Alan Partridge's favorite player. Aha.
That was funny. Oh, Pierre Da Silva is also in there for your
Pierre
interest.
Da Silva!
Yes.
So we saw him for Orlando City B, which is now kaput, right?
Yes.
There is no more Orlando City B, but Pierre Da Silva survived the severing of Orlando City B.
And if Justin Merrim's legs get tired, if he needs a rest, what have you, then that is where we might see Pierre Da Silva.
So I really enjoyed Justin Merrim. I think he's a really exciting footballer because he kind of just goes at you, right?
I think we've got a butt coming here.
No, what I'm saying is Orlando City's left side is going to be exciting to watch no matter what. It's either Justin Merrim, who sort of provides a constant threat, or it's Pierre Da Silva, who has kind of all kinds of tricks and interesting moves. And I remember watching him in USL, went
very
past
good.
people very easily. Wasn't always effective, but went past people very easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And then up top, we'll get to the main man in a second. They brought in Stefano Pinho. He is a Brazilian striker. We will see what happens with him. I think he's Brazilian, but they brought him in from Miami FC, 17 goals, 27 games last year. So he's definitely a proven player when it comes to North American soccer.
Did you hear the NASL news?
I did.
NASL will not. They cancelled the spring season. They've now cancelled the full season, which means no NASL in 2018. Probably means the end of the league.
It's why when I was listing all of the clubs that Orlando City might have played against, I did not list NASL clubs because I don't know how much preseason they were doing.
So we'll see if that NASL goal scoring form can translate over to Major League Soccer.
We also might see an influx of players into either Major League Soccer or USL.
Richmond Kickers already signed a couple, right?
There we go. Yeah. There we go. So Stefano Pinho will probably start the season because Dom Dwyer is nursing an injury, and that is where my prediction comes in. My prediction is that Dom Dwyer will at least double the amount of goals in the second half of the season that he scores in the first half of the season.
So where's the dividing line?
I think All-Star break is right around the midpoint.
Let's call it that.
Yeah, but say
the Kellen Rowe All-Star break.
Yeah, perfect. There we go. So if he scores 5 first half of the season, he's scoring 10 in the second half at least. Okay. And I think that's because, number one, as I said, he's starting the season off with injury, so they're not going to rush him back in there. So it might be he misses the first couple games, then he gets some substitute appearances, then when he comes back, it's still kind of uncertain. They're taking their time with it. But the other point is there are a lot of new faces. It's a new structure. It's what Bobby Warshaw talked about on the Extra Time Radio Show. He got tweeted about it today. It's the idea
on
that
our timeline, right?
There's going to be. It's basically that it might be a slow process for Orlando to kind of get going.
Yep.
But then I think once they get going, the amount of quality they have in this team, they will keep going. And so I think even if they start a little bit slowly, by the end of the season, I think we see a very good goal scoring return from Dom Dwyer.
There we go. Yeah, I think people forget how much the rest of the team contributes to a goal scorer putting goals on the back of the net.
I would agree with that completely.
Final thing on Orlando. I'm weirdly excited to see an Orlando team that isn't all about Kaká and his hamstrings.
Agreed.
Because even though Orlando fans justifiably loved him because he did amazing things on the field, and he's a big name playing for their team, so much of it was like, oh, he's just coming back from injury, or oh, we're missing him this week, and it just seemed like it was always a stop-start season because you're stop-start with Kaká's fitness. So maybe at least just we've moved beyond that to now a more basically a more healthy and present team.
I think that's a very good point, and I know that this is probably
it sort of like Bill Simmons' Patrick Ewing theory, you think?
Well, when you get rid of the star player, I think the idea is that you get rid of the big player, everybody writes you off, and then either because of that or because that was actually a problem for you, you end up being better.
So everybody else kind of raises the game a little bit and doesn't just always look to give the ball to Kaká.
Don't always give it to the two Italians. Yep. Speaking of which, I saw a thing today. Did you know that Brandon Vincent was one of the kids in that movie?
No.
He's one of the little kids in Kicking and Screaming. I saw that on Twitter today.
On Will Ferrell's team?
Yes. He's one of the little kids on the bench. Oh, I'm guessing he does not have a speaking part. Daryl is staring at me with the widest eyes I've ever seen.
Because I love that movie. It's one of the best soccer movies.
Now you have a reason to go back and watch.
Because I also love coffee. So it's got all my favourite things are in there.
The little kid who looks like Brandon Vincent as a child, that's Brandon Vincent. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's amazing. That's my favourite thing I've learned today.
I'm happy to be of service.
No knock on the rest of your research, but that was my favourite thing I learned today.
I'm okay with it.
How did you learn this?
It was on Twitter. Like right before we started recording, I saw it.
Oh, yeah. So have we fact checked that?
Yeah. Oh no, it was the image or like the GIF of him sitting on the bench while a kid like rubs ice on his knee, I think. But I was gonna say that again, like this, we're more experienced than we ever have been when it comes to Major League Soccer. But I'm not going to say that we're like scholars of it. But it does feel like when you go from
we cram well.
I say all of that to say like MLS 1.0 versus 2.0 versus 3.0. That still kind of confuses me. But if you look at Orlando and the Red Bulls, those are two teams that I think exactly what you're talking about with getting rid of Kaká. And then I still had this idea of like, oh, the Red Bulls, they always just sign in DPs. It's what they do. And then you look at it and it's like, oh, I mean, they are, but it's not the people you'd expect.
Yeah.
And it's young, exciting players who are coming in with a job to do, and it does feel a little bit like
the system is more than get yelled at by Thierry Henry for not being as good as him.
There it is.
It used to be the system.
Yeah.
The system is now press and murder.
Yeah, and so you look at some of these players. You've got like 19-year-olds coming in. You've got in their prime like 24-year-olds coming in, and I think that is
we're talking league-wide here.
Yeah, and I think that is the smarter approach because it won't be.
Are you wrapping up before I've done my Philadelphia Union prediction?
And we still have a couple more to go because I still got Toronto after that. But it's just more so. It's exciting to me because while it's less of a like, oh, David Beckham's going to be serving in crosses, it is still like there are 7 20-year-olds on this team, all of whom I want to see.
Yeah, definitely. Major League Soccer's moved on from just some has-been Europeans playing.
Sharp.
We'll see if Zlatan signs.
And yeah.
Did Yaya sign?
No, it's just another another rumor. Okay. Yeah. And Chicharito and all those, yeah.
Should we move on to Philadelphia Union? My final team today. So I mentioned earlier that New York Red Bulls have kind of got rid of some older players and got some younger players to essentially double down on what they were doing. Philadelphia Union have got in some younger players essentially because they can't get any worse.
Wow.
Is the feeling I got. So they let go of Chris Pontius, Gucci Onyewu, Maurice Edu, Charlie Davies, a lot of 2010 World Cup roster situation going on here. I know all those guys weren't on the roster before you tweet at me. But they've essentially got rid of a lot of older guys. And it looks like, in addition to signing David Akam, who adds a thrust of pace coming in from the wing, all the things we talked about he used to do for Chicago Fire, they seem to be putting their faith in a lot of younger players. There's a phrase going around Philadelphia Union right now that is related to, do you remember the Philadelphia Eagles phrase was trust the process? As they had that Super Bowl winning season, trust the process. Apparently, the phrase at Philadelphia Union, can you guess what it is?
Trust this process also?
Trusty the process.
Oh, that's right.
Trusty the process. Because teenage defender Austin Trusty is a key part of the first team roster.
All right.
And I think he's really, emblematic of what Philly are going to be doing.
Good word.
They have so many players that came through the academy and then played for Bethlehem Steel, their USL affiliate, last year in the USL. Kind of like Red Bulls 2 did this. You give those players proper full season minutes. That USL thing is working. And now, a genuine part of the first team roster, you've got Austin Trusty, Matt Rael, who I believe is a fullback, Mark McKenzie is a defender, Derek Jones is going to be in there. We're familiar with him from the U20s. And Anthony Fontana will apparently be starting as sort of a number 10 attacking midfielder. He's 18 years old. I don't know anything about him, but I know I am excited to watch him because I've been told he's 18, Development Academy, he's going to start in Major League Soccer.
Okay.
That's how it should work, right?
Yeah.
That's what we've been asking for. So weirdly, Philadelphia Union, by being not very good last year and kind of giving up on the bigger names, they might secretly be one of the most exciting teams to watch this year in terms of just getting youngsters playing some minutes.
So should we put them in that category of, like, we're going to call them the 2017 Houston category of like might be bad but might be the surprise make playoff team?
So the other thing is it's kind of tempered with the experience of an Alejandro Bedoya, who we talked about as being, remember the November US friendly? Yep. He was the senior guy who was there because everybody likes him and he's like a good spirit guide for everybody else coming in. He can like show them how everything works.
I'd have him as a spirit guide.
Yeah, there you go. Just like, a good like leader, friendly guy who will help you along and not slide tuck you in training because you're scared he's going to take your place, right? So I had to like boil all this down into some sort of very specific prediction, right? I started trying to say maybe they'd be their hipster pick of 2018, but I think MLS is already hipster enough. It doesn't need a hipster pick. My very specific prediction is that Derek Jones will win the starting spot at defensive midfield over Haris Medunyanin.
Okay.
Because he's not the starting defensive midfielder right now. He's a guy who I think, based on what I saw at the U20 World Cup, can be a really good player. The last thing I saw from Medunjanin was missing that penalty for Bosnia against the US in January. I think Derek Jones, as a symbol of the youthful movement at Philadelphia Union, is going to knock Medunjanin out of the team and be the defensive midfielder for Philadelphia Union.
I think that is a very good prediction, especially because I've heard some rumors that it might be Alejandro Bedoya playing as defensive midfield for Philly.
We've seen that before.
I laughed and I laughed.
Well, to be fair, Willian won't be playing against him.
Yet.
And even Nemanja Matic struggles, and Sergio Busquets struggles when Willian is running at you. I actually have a lot more sympathy for Bedoya now after seeing him do that to some of the best defensive midfielders in the world.
Okay, so maybe we've seen that. Maybe never mind. Maybe I don't endorse your prediction.
Bedoya Jones central midfield. I'd watch that. That's really good.
I think you might watch that.
I think I might watch that this year. And then, of course, CJ Sapong, top American goal scorer in Major League Soccer last year. We kind of got to like him a lot more after watching his 2 performances for the US men's national team. I don't have a prediction for him, but I almost just feel like I want to make this the year where I'm aware of him going in at the start of the season. So eyes on CJ Sapong.
I like that. I also like that Philly didn't have the approach of just like, oh, the striker hasn't been scoring. Let's get in a new striker. Like, first of all, he has been scoring. I think he was the top North American goal scorer.
No, top American goal scorer. That's what I said.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. And then also
16 goals, one more than Josie Altidore.
And I like that they're just building around him and giving him support, which I think is something that teams don't often do.
He'll be pleased to see David Akam.
I think he definitely will be. Final team in the East then is Toronto FC. You may have heard of them.
Toronto FC.
The best team ever, I believe. Supporter Shield, MLS Cup, and
Canadian Cup.
Oh, yeah, Canadian Cup. Yeah, not US Open Cup.
Actually, we had a question about this. How come they won the treble last year when they didn't win the US Open Cup? The answer is they won the Canadian Cup.
Yep.
They can't win the US Open Cup ever unless the United States expands northward.
That's laziness. And I was trying to make a joke, but it didn't really work at all. At all. So anyway, what I will say, and I'll just get right to it, my prediction is that they're not done winning cups. My prediction is that they're going to win the CONCACAF Champions League. Because that is really the only way to go from here.
That would be kind of thrilling, but then would also be a reminder that an American team hasn't won the CONCACAF Champions League. Because that would be, they're not representing Major League Soccer in the CONCACAF Champions League. They are representing Canada in the Canadian the Canadian Champions League, the CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that because at least a Major League Soccer team will have won it.
It would be like a step towards
the first time
it,
in a very long time.
Yeah. This would be like for British people when Celtic won the European Cup in 1967. They were the first British team to win the European Cup, but we were still waiting.
Yeah.
All right, when's an English team going to win?
And one more year. See, but see, we'll follow that model. Toronto wins it this year, 2019. Somebody else comes in and wins it from the United States.
There we go.
Perfect. But to get to the actual team, it's pretty much the team that you were familiar with last season. Really, they lost depth here and there. The big one they lost was Steve Beitashour, the right back, replaced by, do you know who?
Gregory van der Veer.
You are correct. Yes, so he'll be the starting right back, right wing back.
PSG, right back.
Fenerbahce.
Played for the Netherlands.
Forget where he came from more immediately.
He's got pedigree.
But he's 30 years old. That's not like 34, 35. That's still young with something to prove.
Yeah, but that means my life is flashing before my eyes because I remember him being an exciting young fullback.
Yeah, that's troubling. They also signed...
Michael Owen's retired. Did you know that as well?
Yeah, that's fine with me. They also signed Auro, who's a 22-year-old Brazilian right back on loan from Sao Paulo, so he'll be the other, he'll deputize at right back if you need to. But really, it's about they've strengthened where they needed to. So I mentioned earlier with Montreal, they got Raheem Edwards. Toronto's most recent signing, I don't know how to pronounce this properly because I believe it's Basque, so I apologize, but it's along the lines of Aguirre Akechi. It's the last one is Aketxe. 24-year-old central attacking midfielder / left winger from Athletic Bilbao. Made some appearances for their senior team, some for their B team. But basically, they've signed an in his prime midfielder who can play on the left, which is where Raheem Edwards could come in if they needed. So basically, they have just strengthened across the board without losing any of their big pieces.
This is another Victor Vasquez type guy, right?
I would say that yes, it probably is. Yeah. And you're still going to have Delgado and Osorio with Bradley anchoring, Vasquez ahead of them, Giovinco and Altidore up top, probably Mavinga and more. It's a set. Again, what I said, it's basically the team you know, and then Justin Morrow on the left, and Bono in goal.
In terms of the US youth movement, so Altidore and Bradley, established guys, we'll see if they get reconnected with the US men's senior national team. The guy I'm interested in is Mikey Delgado.
Okay, that's the one you want to go with?
I think he's capable.
There's another one you forgot about, though.
Is there?
Ayo Akinyola.
Yeah, he's
signed professionally.
He's 17, though, right?
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. I was thinking for senior men's national team. Yeah. Seeing Akinyola get any minutes for Toronto FC will be thrilling, but unlikely, is my guess.
So we're talking specifically about young Americans, then? Because the other one would be that...
Honestly, I was just talking. I didn't really think
Okay, well, you've got Justin Morrow as well, who is older but is in contention for that left-back spot.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's a couple... Oh, and then, Bradley and Josie Altidore play there. But we weren't talking about them. But basically, anyway, to go back to my prediction, I think they'll win the CONCACAF Champions League. I think they will probably make the final. That was what I wanted to predict. But then I decided to go all out.
I may have this wrong, but I believe they've drawn Tigres.
They've still got
to beat Colorado.
They still have to beat Colorado.
Okay.
And they beat them away 2-0.
Yeah.
So now they have them at home. So I think they're probably pretty safe to advance. I made sure of that before making this prediction on the off chance that they were already out. But I just think that they know how MLS works. Greg Vanney especially knows how MLS works. So he's not going to kill himself to get off to a flying start. And I think it makes more sense almost to prioritize the Champions League because it kind of lets you off the hook a little bit. So if you slip a little bit, you don't get as many points to start the season. It's less of a story because you're focusing on another competition.
You got an excuse.
Yeah. And my final...
I don't think they'll need the excuse.
I don't think they will either. But my final reason why I think Toronto will be okay this season and have more success this season, not guaranteeing that they're going to go back-to-back champions, is just that a lot of times when you're the champion, it puts a target on your back. Teams want to beat the champions. So they're always going to raise their game for you. But I think that's kind of been the case with Toronto, that they have so many big players and have that reputation, at least in the past couple seasons, that teams are already doing that. They already have that target on their back. I don't think it changes that much for them in terms of how important it is to defeat Toronto.
And they're still better off than Minnesota United, who have a target on their front.
Nicely done, Daryl.
We got time for the Sky Network?
I think so.
We've run a little long, and we've got practice to go to, but we feel confident.
If we go fast.
Yeah, okay. Because we really do have to get to soccer practice tonight. Okay, Sky Network, we've got some young Americans to keep an eye on. First up is Stephen Kopech. He is scouting Kenny Saif, the forgotten man who could be a big part of the US men's national team going forward. He's a 24-year-old American left midfielder. He's on loan at Anderlecht from Ghent in Belgium. Stephen says Kenny Saif continues to see plenty of minutes with Anderlecht. He went the full 90 in every match since starting his loan with the club. He got an assist in Anderlecht's recent 5-3 win over Mouscron. Never heard of Mouscron, but I'm glad he got the assist.
That works for me. Mason Kriz scouting Marco Farfan, the 19-year-old American left back for the Portland Timbers. We might hear about him tomorrow when we do the Western Conference preview.
Ooh.
Goal alert, says Mason. The Timbers B team played Houston's B team in a closed-door friendly on Saturday, I'm assuming Saturday morning, and Farfan scored a golazo of a volley. On Saturday afternoon, the Timbers first team played Sporting KC and won 3-2. Farfan played around 30 minutes because Vitas injured his hamstring. If this injury persists, then Farfan could start next Sunday against the Galaxy.
Go on, Farfan. Dan Landau is scouting Giovanni Reyna, the 15-year-old American forward, I want to say attacking midfielder, for the NYC FC Academy. Dan says that John Hackworth called Gio Reyna into the US Under-17 camp along with two other NYC FC Academy players. Reyna's inclusion is not a surprise, but it may have been a factor in Vieira's decision to drop him from the NYC FC first team preseason camp.
Richard Rolson scouting Ian Harkes, the aforementioned 22-year-old American midfielder for DC United. Ian Harkes got 63 minutes in DC's penultimate preseason friendly against the Jacksonville Armada. He played as a number 8 while partnering Chris Durkin and helped lead the team to a 2-1 win. In their final preseason match, he came on in the 77th minute against the Las Vegas Lights and quickly made his mark. Joining in a high press, Harkes intercepted the ball about 25 yards from goal, quickly fired a pass to Areola, who was charging up the sideline. Areola then crossed it back for Harkes just inside the box, who shot low to make it 3-1 in the 80th minute. DC would go on to win 4-2.
A lot of Americans mentioned in that DC lineup there. Just saying. Ed Ritter is scouting Ben Mines, the 17-year-old American striker for the New York Red Bulls.
I've heard of him.
Ed says, on the Eastern Conference Preview podcast, Darryl Grove predicted that Ben Mines would score in Major League Soccer this season. He didn't really.
He did not.
We just did that. Ed actually said, Ben Mines played 86 minutes in the Red Bulls, mostly their second teams, 2-1 loss to Phoenix Rising in their final preseason match. Ben had several shots and looked dangerous throughout.
Kevin Morris scouting Shaq Moore, 21-year-old American right back for Levante. Shaq Attack scored a late game-winning goal in Levante B's 2-1 win over La Rota on Saturday. Daryl just grimaced. He wasn't afraid.
Just because of the B word.
He wasn't afraid to make bombing runs down the wing in order to get involved in the attack, and Levante B is now first place in its group in the Tercera division, which is actually Spain's 4th division. So, while it's great to see him getting minutes, says Kevin, he'll need to either fight his way back into the first team or secure a loan over over the summer if he wants to seriously challenge for that U.S. national team right back spot.
Logan Jurgens is scouting Ismaila Sarr, the 19-year-old Senegalese left winger for Rennes in Ligue 1. Ismaila Sarr. Logan says Ismaila Sarr, played the full match against Troyes, I believe it's Troyes, no, not sure, and earned a penalty to put his side up 1-0. He was very active throughout, which is good given that he's returning from a couple recent injuries, including one that saw Kylian Mbappe get his first career red card. It seems that Sarr's decision to accept a summer move to Rennes instead of Barcelona has paid off, as he is now fighting for a spot on the Senegal World Cup team. So when you see Ismaila Sarr running down the wing at the World Cup, remember, you heard his name here first on the Total Soccer Show.
And also, bigger isn't always better. Just saying. Patrick Dost scouting Jonas Kubler, the 18-year-old German midfielder for Schalke. Lil Yanni is back, says Patrick. After missing the first 3 games of the Young Rückrunde, which I'm assuming is the spring junior season, something like that, with a ligament injury, Giannis played a ferocious 7 minutes in Schalke's 5-0 win at Leverkusen's U19s. This seems like an effort to ease him back into the squad, says Patrick.
Todd Ito is scouting Takefusa Kubo, the 16-year-old Japanese attacker for FC Tokyo.
It's such a fun name to say.
Right? Takefusa Kubo came off the bench in the 72nd minute of Tokyo's season opener. He had a good amount of touches in his 18-plus minutes on the field. This seems like it will likely be his role for most of the season.
That's not bad for a teenager. Wills Green scouting Phil Foden, also a teenager, the 17-year-old English midfielder for Manchester City. Phil Foden makes Dale's heart swoon. He also made a late substitute appearance in City's League Cup final romp over Arsenal. He played only 8 minutes, but looked ecstatic to lift the cup with the rest of the Shark team.
Nick Becker is scouting Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, 22-year-old Serbian midfielder for Lazio.
Daryl, I know you have strong feelings about him, so I left in most of this report because there's lots of good info in it.
Okay, SMS, as Nick has labelled Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. SMS scored a brace on Sunday in Lazio's 3-0 win over Sassuolo. The first was a beautiful dipping shot from outside the box in the 7th minute. The second was a header just before half-time. In terms of his national team appearances, or lack thereof, it seems that he was first called up in 2015, but then manager Slavoljub Muslin, can't wait to hear you guys have a crack at that name. I think I did okay. Felt so. Sergej did not fit his 3-4-3 system and never called him up again. The fool. Despite Serbia finishing top of their qualifying group, maybe not so foolish, Muslin and Serbia mutually, quote unquote, parted ways after what the Serbian FA considered a below par performance during the qualifying campaign and disagreement over squad selection. Muslin was reportedly opposed to replacing members of his squad with new players. So SMS's first 2 caps came in November under caretaker manager who has used a 4-3-3 formation. But wait, they finished top of their qualifying group and then he got fired?
Yeah, I think they didn't like that he wasn't bringing in like a variety of players and the same people every time.
Maybe they specifically wanted to see Sergej Milinkovic-Savic.
That seems to be what Nick
is
hinting at.
I agree with the Serbian FA. The new coach is, no, it's not Prosinecki, is the Bosnia coach. Forget I said that.
Cole Hamilton scouting Connolly. Let's try that again. Callum Connolly, 20-year-old English midfielder / defender on loan at Ipswich Town from Everton. Connolly played the full 90 and got the assist for the only goal in Ipswich Town's 1-0 win over Preston North End. With the help of Connolly and January loan signing Cameron Carter-Vickers, the team was able to keep a clean sheet against one of the many teams vying for the promotion playoff spots.
Stephen Brandt of the Yellow Card Pod is scouting Christian Pavon, the 21-year-old Argentine winger for Boca Juniors. Stephen says Christian Pavon scored the second goal in a 4-2 win over San Martin, received a ball over the top from Reynoso and calmly chipped the onrushing keeper, just like you're supposed to.
Well done, Christian.
Well done, Christian Pavon. Thank you to everybody who sent in the scouting reports. There are more scouting reports. They will be on tomorrow's show. Also on tomorrow's show, the MLS Western Conference very specific predictions. We'll have all the Western Conference teams previewed tomorrow. We hope you will join us. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.